Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so I want to start today by invoking a very specific, maybe slightly painful memory that I have a feeling we all share.
Oh, boy.
Picture yourself at like 16, 17 years old. You're in a cramped guidance counselor's office. The lights are humming way too loud, and you're staring at this piece of paper.
A dreaded vocational aptitude test.
Exactly. And the questions are always these, bizarre binary choices. Do you prefer A, assembling a wooden cabinet, or B, organizing a filing system for a dentist?
Right.
And you're sitting there just thinking, honestly, I'd rather be asleep. You pick one, the machine churns, and it spits out your destiny. Congratulations, you are going to be a park ranger.
And you're thinking, but I have severe hay fever, and I am terrified of bears.
Right. It feels like a horoscope written by a bureaucrat. We've all been there. We feel like these tests are just trying to shove us into these rigid boxes that don't really fit.
And most of us just shrug it off.
Yeah, we assume the test is flawed and we move on. But today we are diving into some research that suggests something much more interesting. It's not just that the tests are annoying. It's that the actual science behind career choice has been stuck on a plateau for like 50 years.
It really has. We're looking at a fascinating, if a little dense, paper today titled Decoding Decisions: Personality Interest Motivational Sequences as Predictors of Career Paths by Gary Clifford Townsend and Portia Webb.
And their whole argument is that we've been looking at the map upside down.
Essentially, yes.
So the mission for this deep dive is to unpack their new framework, which they call PIMS, Personality Interest Motivational Sequences. I know, it's a mouthful. But the promise here is huge. They're trying to move us from asking what job fits you to answering a much deeper question. What specific configuration of your personality traits causes you to want that job?
And the stakes are high because, like you said, the field has been stalled.
Wow.
We have to talk about the correlation plateau.
Okay, yeah, this was the first thing in the notes that really grabbed me. Because you sort of assume science gets better every year, but you're saying vocational psychology just hit a wall.
It did. For decades, if you tried to predict someone's career interest based on their personality, the statistical link, the correlation, it just covered around 0.48.
Okay, I'm not a statistician. Translate 0.48 for me. Is that good?
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's roughly a coin flip, maybe a little better.
So our best scientific tools were only explaining about half the story.
Exactly. And if you're a student trying to pick a major, we're right about half the time isn't exactly a confidence boost.
So Townsend and Webb come along and say, we can do better. And spoiler alert for you listening, they do. They didn't just inch past that number. They smashed it. They got to 60% accuracy in predicting career paths based purely on personality.
Which, in the messy world of social science, is a massive leap forward.
But before we get to the solution, this PIMS engine, we have to diagnose the problem. Why was the old way so stuck? What's this old map we've been using?
The old map is something you've definitely seen, even if you don't know the name. It's called RIASEC, developed by a guy named John Holland back in the 50s.
This is the hexagon, right? I totally remember seeing this chart.
That's the one. 6 categories: realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. The idea is everyone fits into one or maybe a blend of 2 of these buckets.
Okay, so realistic is people who like tools. Social is people who like people. Artistic, well, you get it. Seems straightforward. What's the problem?
It seems straightforward, but the paper argues it's actually circular. And this is a huge critique. RIASEC confuses the environment, where you work with the personality who you are.
Give me an example of that. What do you mean circular?
Okay, take the social type. If I ask the Holland model, why does this person want to be a social worker? The answer is basically because they are a social type.
Okay.
Then if I ask, well, what is a social type? The answer is someone who likes social jobs.
Oh, it's a tautology. It's like saying you enjoy swimming because you are a swimmer.
Exactly. It describes the outcome, but it completely ignores the engine. It treats interests like these static boxes you climb into. You are an artist. But Townsend and Webb say interests aren't boxes, they're emergent properties.
Emergent properties. That sounds like something out of, like, physics or complexity theory.
It is, kind of. Just think of a traffic jam.
Right.
A traffic jam isn't a physical thing you can hold right. It emerges from hundreds of individual cars interacting. The authors are saying your career interest, your desire to be a scientist, for example, is like that traffic jam. It just bubbles up from these tiny specific personality traits interacting inside you.
So we're moving from the macro, I am an extrovert, down to the micro. And this is where PIMS comes in. They use something called the Townsend Personality Questionnaire, or TQQ. How is that different?
Well, most tests look at the big 5 traits. Extroversion, conscientiousness, very broad strokes. The TPQ breaks those down into 30 distinct facets.
Facets like on a diamond.
Or like ingredients in a recipe. So instead of just saying you're conscientious, the TPQ measures if you are dutiful or directed or structured or cautious. And you can be high in one and low in another.
I see. So I could be highly directed, very goal-oriented, but have low caution, so I take risks.
Right.
If you just lump those together, you lose all that nuance.
Precisely. And the PIMS hypothesis is that specific combinations, these sequences of those 30 facets, are what really drive you.
Okay, so that's the theory. Get granular. But theories are cheap. Let's talk about the study. Who did they actually test?
They looked at 504 university students in South Africa, which is a great sample group because these students are right at that point where they're making these big career choices.
Your crystallization point?
Exactly. They had them take the TPQ to map their 30 personality facets, and then the standard 1-ET profiler to see where they fell on that old RIASEC map.
So they have the inputs, the personality, and the outputs, the career choices, and then they run the math. The paper mentions a multinomial regression model, which to me just sounds like something that requires a PhD to operate. Can you dumb that down for us? What is that model actually doing?
Think of it as a huge pattern recognition machine. It's looking at all 30 of those personality dials for all 500 students. And it's trying to find the patterns that predict which RIASEC bucket a student will fall into. It's asking, if I turn up thrill-seeking and turn down compliance, what job does this person end up wanting?
And this is how they hit that 60% accuracy. Now, I want to push on that number, 60%. If I got a 60% on a math test, I'd fail. So why are we celebrating 60%?
Context is everything. Remember, there are 6 RIASEC types. If you were just guessing randomly, your chance of being right is about 16.7%.
Okay.
So jumping from a 16% chance to a 60% prediction rate is a massive signal in the noise. It proves that our personality, the messy, granular details, really is the engine.
I buy that. It validates the engine analogy. It's not just one trait, it's the sequence.
Correct. It's not just having high energy, it's having high energy plus low compliance, plus high intellectual curiosity.
Yeah.
That specific cocktail is what pushes you.
This is the part of the paper I really want to dig into, because when they looked at these cocktails, these sequences, they found things that just completely shatter the stereotypes we have. Let's start with the investigative type.
The investigative type, sure. In the old model, this is the scientist, the researcher. The stereotype is lab coats, beakers, maybe a bit detached.
Yeah.
Very logical.
Yeah, Spock from Star Trek. Or Sheldon Cooper.
Exactly. Pure logic.
Yeah.
But the PIMS model found a specific sequence for these people, and it's so much more interesting. It found you need a combination of high thrill-seeking and high competence.
Hold on. High thrill-seeking. For a lab researcher, I associate thrill-seeking with, like, skydiving, not staring at bacteria under a microscope.
That was my reaction, too. But look what it's combined with. Low resilience and low sociability.
Whoa.
Specifically, the unguarded and collaborative facets were low.
Okay, let's unpack that. Low resilience means you feel stress and setbacks really deeply.
Yes, you're sensitive. The emotional world hits you hard. And low sociability means you aren't naturally comfortable trusting others or relying on a team.
So, if I'm hearing this right, the world of people feels messy and risky. The world of emotions feels dangerous. But you have this high thrill-seeking drive.
Exactly. So what do you do if you have high competence? You know you're smart and high thrill-seeking. You crave intensity. You don't jump out of planes, that's physical risk. You don't run for office, that's social risk. You channel that drive into intellectual risk.
You dive into the most complex, abstract problems you can find.
Yes. You tackle the hardest puzzle. Because in the lab or in the code, you control the variables. The PIMS analysis suggests this isn't just about curiosity, it's a compensatory mechanism.
A compensatory mechanism?
Yeah, it's the intellectual daredevil. They're using their mastery of complex systems as a shield against a world that feels too emotionally chaotic. They get their thrill from the discovery, but they do it in a controlled environment because their resilience is low.
That is profound. It completely reframes the nerd stereotype. They aren't detached because they don't feel. They're detached because they feel too much. And science is the one safe place to be intense.
Precisely. The interest is just an emergent property of needing to feel safe, yet stimulated.
Okay, let's flip to the other end of the spectrum, the conventional type. The organizers, accountants, data managers, compliance officers.
The stereotype here is boring or rule follower. And we usually assume these people are driven by anxiety, They're high in caution, afraid to make a mistake, so they check the spreadsheet 3 times.
Right. The person who color codes their bookshelf because chaos is scary.
But the PIMS data showed the exact opposite. And this was the second aha moment for me. The profile for conventional interest is defined by high-tempered and high-composed, which are aspects of extreme emotional stability. And here's the kicker. They have low cautious scores.
Low cautious? How can you be a good accountant if you aren't cautious? That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Well, this is where we have to separate anxiety from precision. If you are high-tempered and high-composed, you are unflappable. You are emotionally rock solid. You don't need to be cautious because you aren't scared of messing up.
So they're not double-checking out of fear. They're just executing.
Think of a master surgeon versus a medical intern. The intern is cautious, shaking, checking the manual. The master surgeon is composed. They cut with absolute precision, not because they're worried, but because they're in a state of flow.
So the conventional type isn't the anxious rule follower. They're the calm operator.
Exactly. They thrive in systems not because they need the safety, but because they're the only ones stable enough to handle all that data without getting stressed out. They are the eye of the storm.
I will never look at my accountant the same way again. That is a total power move. Okay, let's do one more before we get to the big mystery. The artistic type.
The rebel. The PIM sequence here was low altruistic and low dutiful, combined with high complex.
Low altruistic. That sounds a little harsh. Are we saying artists are selfish?
It's not about being mean. It's about prioritization. High complex means you value the nuance of ideas above all else. Now think about altruism in a personality test. It often means smoothing things over, making sure everyone feels good.
And dutiful means following the social rules.
Right. So if you're highly altruistic and dutiful, you're constantly self-censoring. You don't want to offend. But to create real art, to make something new, you often have to offend. You have to break the form.
So the artistic interest emerges when the drive for complexity overrides the drive for social harmony. You have to be willing to be the bad guy in the room if it means telling the truth.
Exactly. It's not malice. It's a commitment to the abstract over the social.
These profiles are so vivid. We have the intellectual daredevil, the calm operator, the rebel. But there was one profile in this study that didn't paint a picture at all.
The mystery of the social type. This was the biggest twist, and honestly the part that makes this paper so important. The model, which worked so well for everyone else, completely failed to find a distinct personality profile for the social category.
So it couldn't predict who would want a social career. It just came back as noise.
Correct. The signal wasn't there. And the authors argue this isn't a failure of the study. It's a massive finding in itself. It proves the social category is what they call a messy bucket.
A messy bucket. Unpack that for me.
Okay, think about the jobs that fall under social. You've got a nurse and you've got a politician or a school principal.
Right. They all deal with people.
But psychologically, they're almost opposites. The nurse might be the nurturing, altruist, high empathy, soft, caring. They want to heal. The politician is the influencing leader, assertive, thick-skinned, high dominance. They want a guide.
I see. One is soft power, one is hard power.
Exactly. But the old RIASEC map just throws them both in the social bin. So when you run the data, the soft traits of the nurse and the hard traits of the leader they cancel each other out. The average looks like nothing.
That is fascinating. It basically proves that liking people isn't a personality trait. It's way too broad.
It validates the critique that RIASEC is a misshapen polygon. You can't just lump everyone who interacts with humans into one category because the motivation, the engine, is completely different.
This really explains why and I think a lot of us, have always felt weird about these tests. You could be an introvert who loves teaching or an extrovert who hates carrying jobs. The label social hides more than it reveals.
It hides the conflict. PIMS exposes that the social category is a mirage made of contradictory engines.
So if the old map is flawed and PIMS is giving us this high-res look at our engines, where do we go from here? The paper mentions a future tool, the PIMS Atlas.
This is the vision for the future. Instead of a test spitting out a generic label like "you are an artist," the authors propose using pathwaying. Imagine a 30-dimensional map.
My brain hurts just trying to visualize that.
Stick with me. Think of it like Spotify recommendations. Netflix doesn't say you are a comedy watcher. It says people who liked The Office also like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It uses vector mapping.
Okay, so PIMS would do that for jobs.
Exactly. It would use cosine similarity.
Cosine similarity. There's a term I haven't heard since high school trig.
It's simpler than it sounds. It just takes your specific vector, your 30-facet settings, and matches them against the vectors of successful people in specific jobs. It measures the angle between you and them.
So rather than matching me to a type, it's matching me to actual people.
Yes. It compares your psychological engine to the engine of a successful UX strategist or a data architect. You might get a 92% match with a research scientist, not because you like test tubes, but because your resilience, thrill-seeking, and competence levels match the psychological demands of that specific job.
That seems so much more useful. It allows for all this nuance. You can be an introvert who is a great leader because your directed and structured facets are off the charts.
Exactly. It moves from static typing, you are this, to dynamic matching. You function like this. And it even helps explain other models. Concepts like Shine's career anchors, like a need for autonomy.
Sure, people who value freedom above everything else.
PIMS explains why you have that value. A need for autonomy isn't random. It's the output of high competence interacting with low sociability. You want autonomy because you know you're good, and you don't like the friction of dealing with a team.
It all comes back to the source code.
It really does. We're finally moving from just describing what people like to explaining why they like it, all through the lens of their personality architecture.
It really changes how you look at your own behavior. I'm thinking about my own low caution moments now and wondering if it's competence or just recklessness.
Well, see, that's the beauty of it. The granular data would tell you. If you're also composed, it's competence. If you're impulsive, maybe it's recklessness.
True. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the big takeaway for you? What should you, the listener, be thinking about this week?
For me, I keep coming back to that null finding for the social type. It's just such a powerful reminder that the labels we use are often illusions. If social is a fake category made of contradictory traits, what other labels do we use every day that are actually masking these complex, conflicting internal engines?
That is a great question. I mean, we label people introverts, leaders, creatives. We throw these words around like we know what they mean.
Exactly. And those labels might be hiding more than they reveal. So my challenge to you is to stop looking at the broad label on yourself or your colleagues and look for the facets. Look for the quirks, the intellectual daredevil hiding inside the quiet scientist, the calm operator inside the boring accountant. That's where the real human story is.
Look for the engine, not the paint job. I love that. PIMS gives us a new way to do exactly that. Thank you so much for breaking this down with me.
My pleasure. It's a fascinating new world of research.
And thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.